Hey, everyone.
Hi, friends.
Welcome to the ultimate crossover episode.
Ooh, crossover.
This is the Wi-Fi pod. And,
Which I had to remind myself what we were recording when we sat in these chairs.
okay. Yeah, you overbooked today.
I did. It happens a lot.
Yeah. And you should stop it.
Well, I'll let you know when I get to stop doing that.
You can stop it anytime.
Okay.
And Mutual Victory pod. So this is like a DC Marvel crossover. Epic.
DC Marvel epic crossover of Mutual Victory, which is our, for those of you who don't know, is our personal podcast.
Shameless
plug.
Shameless plug.
And for those of you who listen to our Mutual Victory podcast, we also have a podcast with Yoga Farm Ithaca called YFI Pod.
Yeah. Hey,
and this episode,
check them both out. Maybe there's something for everybody.
Something for everybody.
Do you have any front desks?
Do you have any front desks? I don't think so, because I think the topic of the day is going to have intermittent front desk check-ins.
Okay.
You know.
Sporadic check-ins.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly
Love it.
that.
The topic of the day is...
Oof. Working with your spouse.
I love how we just... I love that we both let out a little sigh before we even can say the title. Yeah, working at home with your spouse. Not even like working with your spouse, which we have done before.
Many times.
I mean, one time when we were both high school, we were in the same building. We didn't really work together.
Right.
We maybe had a couple students.
We had students that overlapped.
Right, but we weren't really working together every day.
No. We tried to not be around each other as much as possible during the day because people had feelings about that.
Right. And then at the massage school, you were my supervisor, and we did work together.
Well, also not as much because I was admin and you were a teacher. So
right, but like you were my supervisor.
Yeah. I mean, I had to yell at you a lot.
Yeah. You had to talk me off a lot of ledges.
I talk you off ledges. I didn't have to yell at you.
Yeah.
I needed to do some calm, soothing voice.
There was one time. If you were not my supervisor,
you would have quit.
I would have quit. I would have walked out of that building.
Yeah.
But thank God you were there. And now you are straight. Like now we both work together and from home.
And from home.
There is no getting away.
And I'm your supervisor.
Yeah.
At work. Not at home.
No.
No.
Okay. Sure. Let's let the audience decide based on this conversation.
Okay.
I'm sure. So how do you want to start this?
Well, I think that it's fun because, I mean, we are who we are and we can't be serious about many things. So there's going to be a lot of shenanigans around what it's like to work together. However, I just have to say that I don't expect this to be shared by you. I love working with you. I love working together at home. It's like, I mean, there's part of me that knows that at any time, you are a highly qualified human being. You have 2 master's degrees. You have so much experience in the field of education. And I know that there could be a time where you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to take that job working at this library that is in the town over and I just, I want to work at a little library, or I want to go work at a college library and go work at SUNY Cortland, So I know that there's a possibility of that happening at any time, that you could say that. And so there's a part of me that is like I just try to soak in every moment that I get to work with you and that we get to work at home together and, go into the studio together or whatever, go to a yoga festival together for 4 days to work. Yeah.
That's cute.
I'm just grateful.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm grateful too. I spend a lot of my time working job hunting. So no, I'm kidding. But no, I do because I don't know what I signed up for, but every now and then it's like, here's a it's some job search thing that I'm
You'll
still
get like an email.
right, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this organization is looking for this job in your field and whatever,
Yeah.
and like so I get those, and often I think, oh, would I want to do this job? Like, would I like it? Would I want to go works outside the home? And it's tough not to be able. It's tough to turn down the opportunity to work in my office library, actually. And for the Wi-Fi pod people, you will notice a different setting.
Right, because we're in our library.
We are not in the studio. We are in our library.
Our
which,
library / shared office.
Yeah, which is, I had my eyeballs on this room since we moved into this house almost a year ago.
Almost a year ago.
And it was one of the children's rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And that child bounced, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then another child moved in.
Yep.
Then when that child moved out, I said, no mas. This is
So
becoming a library.
We are making this into a
We
library.
are making it a library.
We're going hard on the dark academia theme
Yeah.
here. And we love that.
Which I have to give
So-
you props for. I never could have pulled this off. Like, not
well,
the
we
action.
can give Pinterest props for it.
Well, not that just like the painting and the moving of the books and the finding of the stuff, but like the color scheme. Like, I know I wanted something like this. I don't know if I could have done it. So this is amazing. This is mostly all you.
Aw, thanks, babe.
Welcome. Yeah. And I like the work that I do, and it enables me to dabble in other stuff too.
Yeah.
And not to not bury the lead, but not to talk off topic, but I'm sure down the line in both podcasts we will talk about human design, which is another personality typing system. The more I read about mine, which is manifesting generator, which is just like, I just think of like,
Yeah.
yeah. But the more I read about it, it says you're not here to do one thing. Like, you can do
Mhm.
many things. Like, you've lots of lanes. Don't think you just because you're doing this one thing, you can't also do this other thing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to really embrace that. So that's, and if I feel like energized and it gives me juice to be able to do the work for your Wi-Fi and to do other things, yeah, it's dynamite. It's hard
Yeah.
to turn down. And mainly because I did see other like school library media specialist
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like, not bad. I don't know. Yeah, but it's hard to not do this.
Well, and that's a good way to walk through it because it's so easy, like so freaking easy to do the grass is greener thing.
Oh yeah.
Like
right.
it's just it's human nature to be like, this would be, I would have this thing or this thing or this thing that I don't currently have because of the thing that I'm doing right now.
Mhm.
And, it takes conscious awareness and effort to be like, these are all the things
Right.
that are amazing
Yep.
about what I get to do right now. And not
True.
that there aren't parts that are frustrating, but to turn the focus,
Yeah.
the focus to, this is really like, we get to do this. We
Yeah.
get to work together in this space. We get to have one of my favorite things about working together. Do you know what I'm going to say?
No, I have no idea. This is one of
Oh.
the, I think 50% of the time, 45 to 50% of the time, I could predict what you're going to say and do often.
Mhm.
And I'll say like, you're going to say this,
Mhm.
or I knew you're going to say that. And you get frustrated.
Well, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm officially super boring because you can predict most of my behavior.
This doesn't make it boring.
Okay.
But no, I have no idea what you're going to say.
Oh, morning shower meetings. Frowned upon in most work environments.
I mean, I did that for a while at one job, and they were like, you have to stop.
Stop it.
That is, yeah,
I love those,
you do.
So I think it's great. We get to go through the schedule of the day. We get to make a plan whilst showering.
Also, sometimes I ask you what the day is like, and you look at me like, Jesus, we just went over this.
Yeah.
Is that true? Am I way off base by?
It's not like Jesus. It's more of sometimes you ask me, often you ask me either the night before, even at dinner, like,
Mhm.
so what's tomorrow like? And there's part of me that wants to be like, no, we're not going to talk about this right now
Wow.
because you're not going to remember anything that I say. And we're supposed to not be working. So like,
Oh, now there's boundaries. Now there's all of a sudden boundaries.
No, there's not all of a sudden boundaries. There's an awareness that there's leakiness to boundaries. And so an attempt at having them, I'm like, we're having dinner.
Okay.
And so,
Well, I mean, what is that telling when I'm like, what's tomorrow like? Maybe it's not about work at all. Maybe it's not like, what do you have going on? I don't want to know work stuff. I want to know how you're going to do some self-care.
because I frequently am doing non-work things.
It's true. Yes. All right. Now, fair. That's also that that is 100% accurate.
Yeah. So my like look of like
Right.
usually comes from I knew that we shouldn't have had this conversation at dinner last night because
But
we could have been talking about
true.
like, why Batman isn't as cool as you think he is. And that would have been a more productive conversation than what tomorrow is going to be like when we're going to have that again in the shower.
Well, sometimes I want to know because, I mean, oftentimes, honestly, like, if it's like selfish, like, oh, I would like to go to the library tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I forget what the day is like. Where's a window, or when's the best time?
Right. Like,
or
are we going downtown tomorrow?
Right. Are we going down together?
Right.
Are you
Mhm.
going down? So half the time it's what's tomorrow. As your executive assistant,
That is not your job title.
well, I think it's one of my job duties.
Um.
It's pretty close. Selfishly, or I would like to go hit golf balls in the afternoon, or I would like to go to the library.
Yeah.
How can that be fit into the day?
Totally.
And I often don't remember.
Also true.
I want to apologize, but I'm not because it's
I
not
mean,
going to change.
We're far enough into
I'm
this
trying.
at this point that like I am not anticipating your memory getting better. I did suggest recently that you start taking St. John's wort. I think that could help.
Oh,
But
okay.
Sure. Like there's a lot to remember. We do have this very cool calendar
I know.
that helps us keep everything organized.
Right. It's a skylight calendar.
And it goes in our kitchen, so
It's a digital thing. You can
you
put
can
an event in
see
your-
it.
put an event in your phone and it shows up on the calendar.
Shows up on the calendar.
It's
You
dynamite.
can see it across the room in the kitchen. So
Yeah.
if I see it, I'm like, oh, I have to be somewhere in 30
Yeah.
minutes. Like, cannot forget that thing, which has been, which we saw when we were visiting your sister because
Yeah.
she's the queen of organization of
Yeah.
all things. And I was like, this is going to be super helpful because the spring was crazy busy. And
Yeah.
I was like, I am going
Wow,
to.
that was February.
Yeah.
You said like the spring. I'm like, we're barely through that. I'm like, no, it's over.
Yep.
Wow. Oh my
Yep.
God.
Yep.
This like the days are short. The days are long, but the years are short. It's what I'm feeling lately.
That's very poetic. Honey.
Well, I read it somewhere else.
Oh.
Someone more insightful said it, but it rang true.
So working together, what do you? I mean, what's your favorite part of working together?
My favorite part of working together. I like it on the rare occasion. Now, I hate to say this, and I think this is going to happen more because we were talking last night on the porch, which is what we're doing lately. Side note, I'm loving, like, we eat dinner and we are either going out by the fire and having a fire or we're just going on the porch.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I'm smoking a cigar or a pipe or not. And we just kind of hang out
Mm-hmm.
and we're not having the what do you want to watch conversation.
Right.
Which, like, I hate sometimes.
It's another thing to think about.
I really do.
It's
I
like, what's
hate
for
it.
dinner?
Yeah.
What's for dinner? What are we gonna watch?
Hate it so much. So
We're
I
gonna
have
watch
been
the fire.
I have been loving this outside, and that's purely a summer thing. Like winter, it's really hard to do. And
I
it's-
mean, you don't have to sell it to me. We
Right.
both know that I'm gonna be outside.
Yeah.
It's like something happens in mid-May.
Yeah.
Mid-May hits, even prior to like Memorial Day weekend.
yeah.
Mid-May
Once the weather
hits,
like turns,
I'm like, why are we not doing everything outside all the time?
you are.
You get so mad at me.
Well, like I don't really care for eating outside, which is weird. Like you're like,
Weird.
you want to eat on the porch? I'm like, ugh, no. We can go on the porch after.
Apparently this is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
It took us this long to land in this place where I'm like, fine, we'll eat at the dining room table. God forbid.
I've just hated dinners for 10 years. And now we finally figured it out. No, okay, so get back to the question. Last night we were talking,
Uh-huh.
and you had mentioned something that you like, I have a big project for you.
Oh.
And you told me about it, And it seems, yeah, it's huge.
It's huge.
But I think what is exciting is like collaborating and discussing and talking
Mhm.
and, you know, problem solving. And when we can do a project like that, that's super fun.
Yeah.
I do really like doing that because I just love bouncing ideas off of you. I love hearing your thoughts on things like that. So that would be my favorite part. And the shame to say it's kind of rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't happen super often,
Mm-hmm.
just for the nature of our jobs,
Right.
roles and responsibilities in the organization. But yeah, I really
Well,
enjoy
that's
that.
because I've periodically tried to talk you into something like building out and teaching a relationship course, and that's the face you make right there.
Right.
You're like, no.
What?
You're like, hard pass.
Well,
Not
I
gonna
mean,
do it.
not a hard pass, but it's like, would you like to teach a course on agriculture? I'm like, I don't know anything about that.
What the hell are you talking about? Did you just describe your experience in relationship to your experience in agriculture?
Well, I mean, it's about planting seeds and letting them grow. So if we built it out, I'm sure it's a beautiful metaphor.
Okay.
Anywho. I just feel like I don't have a lot to offer.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I just like, yes, dear. That's the course.
That is not the course. That is not the course.
That's at least one module.
However, we did discover a couple of things that have contributed to your education around how to be in relationship. One was whatever class they made you take as seniors in Catholic school.
that
was that
was
class?
Well, I think every year, because I went to a Catholic high school, every year we took a religion class, and like 1 year was morality and social justice.
Mm-hmm.
That was junior year. I think senior year the theme was the sacraments.
Ah.
And so marriage was one. And props to Mr. Cafferkey and Notre Dame High School. It was not, this is what marriage is. This is what marriage is between. These are the people that marriage is supposed to be between.
Right.
It was nothing like that. It was like
Nothing like
legitimate. What are relationships? How do they work? What is the work that goes into them? Like,
So
we
good.
watched, one of the movies we watched was that movie Forget Paris
Yeah.
with Billy Crystal, Deborah Winger, right?
mm.
I think so. And it's like their love story, and it's like a focus on trying to make a marriage work. And we watched that and had honest discussions about that kind of stuff. And also I think, like dating was a topic. Like, what do dates look like? You know, it's so funny because I think he asked the questions like, what does a date look like? And like, we all thought we were kind of cool. Like, yeah, we know what it is. I'm like, well, you know, where would you go? How would you ask someone out? And we were all like, we don't really know. Because it's like,
Is this man still alive? I'm going to send him a card.
Maybe. But it's like, what, you know, we were like, oh, you go out with me? Yeah, I'll go out with you. Dating. Not like, what does an actual date look
and
like?
what's the point?
Right. And like, and what does it look like in the 90s? Is it the same as your parents dated? You know, that kind of thing. There were discussions about that too. Yeah, so I don't remember a whole lot about that year's religion course, but definitely the marriage part was, I still have memories of that. Yeah.
There was another thing that happened recently too, which like divulged another layer of how you came to be in relationship the way that you're in relationship. I can't remember what it is right now, so hopefully it will come back to me.
Do you remember anything? I mean,
I just remember saying to you, like, this whole time I've been giving all the credit to Mom, and it looks like there were some co-conspirators too. So I don't remember what it was that we were talking about. So hopefully it comes back.
Okay.
But all of that to say, like, working together on projects at work within the field that, you know, we work within, it is rare that we get to like launch a project from start to finish with the two of us, particularly a project that's big. And it is really fun. And some of them that have been like, you know, on the smaller side might be like revising classrooms or curriculum or the manuals or stuff like that.
Or just like reorganizing the library of stuff we have in our drive of video stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, this is a collaborative behind the scenes collaborative project that we get to do.
Like, I thought about it. Well, now I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting overwhelmed by it.
Oh boy.
It's going to seem so big.
Just stop it.
Yes, boss.
This is how I can be super supportive in my role as.
This is your support. Is stop it.
As well. I also learned that from the best.
Was that my mother?
Yes. Just stop it. It would be done by now if you
Oh,
started
stop
it.
it.
Oh, stop it.
If you started it when
You
started
it last night when I talked about it.
if you started it when you started talking about it, it would be done by now. That's wisdom I carry with me every day.
You know, she's got a lot of wisdom, and the world would be a better place if they listened to Ellen's wisdom.
If you started the thing you hadn't shut up about.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Oh, I love that that's something that you love about, even though you're feeling overwhelmed about the project. It's a big project,
Right.
and it will
Well,
take
that's
a
because
while.
I'm seeing the forest. I'm not like looking at this tree first, then that tree,
Yeah.
and that's the way it's going to go. Which I like big projects that take a lot of time. Like if you're like start this thing and need it ready in a year, I'm like that is now, and not just because I have time, but it's like that must be the earth element in me where it's like I really
steadiness.
love the steadiness and knowing that something is going to take and require a long time.
Yeah, it's
and
the kapha.
Right. Yeah. I love that for some reason.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. One thing that comes to mind for me that is tricky about working together, because I'm sure throughout this episode we're gonna poke fun at the trickiness that is there. We mentioned sort of briefly there isn't separation between like work and
No.
life, and those two things just bleed on together. Yeah, it's like that. I think is a given.
Right.
That it's hard to have workday has ended and life has begun, and it's important to do that because otherwise work can feel, even if it's not actually happening this way, but it can feel 24/7. So
yeah. I have some ideas. You won't listen to any of them, but seriously, it is hard, and mainly with the nature of the work that we're doing, especially like teaching courses to adults sometimes isn't
not 9 to
during
5.
the workday, not
Yeah.
9 to 5, and neither is running the studio.
Right.
There's a lot of not 9 to 5 hours. So
Right.
And it's hard not to wake up in the morning and then get to work doing something.
Because we're so conditioned.
Right. And
around that.
then realizing, oh, today's a late day. I'm going to be in the studio until 7.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, it's funny to think about. It would not be unreasonable for you to, if you're going to be at the studio till 7 or so,
Yeah.
it would not be unreasonable for you to not work until 11.
Exactly.
But,
That rarely
that
happens.
rarely
Yeah.
happens. And I don't think of it either until like, oh, yeah, today's a late night.
Right.
We should, and it's 8:30 and we started doing stuff already, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that part is.
I have tried to lay down some boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
and they have been met with mixed results and mixed attitudes.
Well, it probably depended what archetype I was in when you came up with these solutions.
You're right. Okay. Can we just stop? Here's what I need. And I'm going to need help in creating this thing.
Okay. Are you talking about an Etsy sign again?
I'm talking about, how we have our calendar to lay out the events and things we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I need is some sort of calendar or chart to
All
say
right.
I am in this archetype.
Okay. I think we can just get one of those
And we haven't talked about this archetype on YFI, have we? Yeah, like feminine archetypes.
I don't think so.
Maybe? Did we talk about the dude types?
Dude type. Jesus Christ.
I don't think we have either.
No.
That's a good topic.
Yeah, we probably need to revisit some archetypal conversation.
For the feminine archetypes, I doubt
Yeah.
there's someone listening to Wi-Fi who actually has not heard this language.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the maiden, mother, crone, witch. Ooh, don't leave that one out.
Maiden, mother, witch, crone.
Okay. Oh, I was just trying to name them.
Yes.
Maiden, mother, witch, crone.
Mhm.
Right. And I still have no idea how those lay out in any given sort of time frame. For me, it's like it could just be a D20 roll. Be like, you're in your witch.
It's definitely not a D20 roll.
I know that.
It's
and
not,
I know
yeah.
that it's not as random.
It's not random.
It feels random. But I'm sure there is a
It's
very
not.
precise calculation, an observable timeline of
Uh-huh.
events I could start to pay attention to
Hmm.
that would help a lot.
Right. And if I'm consciously thinking of it, like I will say things like, "Oh, I'm definitely my witch archetype right now," and like you have an awareness of what that means. So this is not like you're completely flying blind. Like you understand
Right.
what those archetypes
I would
are.
know what to Google because if you said which archetype now, I think, oh, no, I don't remember. But I would know what to Google and what to look for. If you said maiden, I think I would. Man, it's just, there's so
Wow.
many.
I feel like you were so on top of this topic when you were reading Magician King Warrior Lover. Like you were on it.
Well,
You-
because it was. Was I?
it's like a foreign language. Like you stopped using it. We are not using this enough.
I
this
should drink
language
some
enough.
moonshine. I would probably remember it like that.
Like you remember Spanish.
Yep. It's this special Costa Rican moonshine.
Oh my God.
It made me bilingual.
Instantly.
It was like a D&D potion.
It was so crazy.
It's like we went to go. This was just a trip. This wasn't like a retreat.
No,
were
we were
leading.
just on a
We
trip.
just went to Costa Rica for your birthday. It
Yep.
was a birthday trip, and we toured a
Cacao.
cacao farm.
Yep.
And afterwards, the gentleman that gave us the tour gave us some moonshine.
Well,
Well,
we
wait,
were
did we mix
like harvesting sugarcane water.
Yeah, we mixed it with something, right? We didn't just do shooters.
And
of
so
it.
he was filling little cups with sugarcane water, and then he
Yeah.
pulled a flask out of his shirt and was like, "Do you want some?" And of course, you said yes. I
Yeah.
I did
Oh
not.
yeah. I mean, dude, when in Costa Rica.
went in Costa Rica.
So anyway,
Drank
we
the
did
moonshine.
this. It was good. I just like did a couple sips. I didn't
Uh-huh.
I didn't take his flask
Obviously.
and just pound it back.
Yes.
But one of this
The moment
unforeseen,
after you drank that, all of your high school Spanish came back.
every ounce of high school, I took Spanish in college too as an undergrad.
Yeah.
Every ounce of it, every ounce came back. Like we were eating dinner that night and I was able to be like, that's what that thing is called in Spanish.
Uh-huh.
And where did this come from? Yeah,
Yep.
it was remarkable. It was like when I would tell a sister about forgetting my sister in Nebraska on the
Mhm.
trip, it's like I know how I would react if I saw actual magic happen.
Mm.
This is a story where if I want to know what it's like to play to be in the D&D world, that's a good story
Yeah.
because it's like I just drank this stuff and all of a sudden magically remembered my Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was remarkable.
It was awesome. Where the hell did we start?
How did we get here?
Uh,
We were talking about what was hard about working together and not having boundaries.
oh, your archetypes.
And then we got to archetypes because you said you came up with solutions to the leaky boundaries of work-life balance.
Right, but then you said it depends on your archetype.
My
And
reception of your ideas, yes.
whether or not I think your ideas are stupid
No,
depends on
no, not ever stupid. Maybe unreasonable. Maybe
I can't think of a thing I've requested that it was ever been unreasonable. I'm such a reasonable guy.
you are a reasonable guy, but sometimes there is, so for a bit in the winter, it would be like 5:30. 5:30 clockwork. You were like, it's cocktail hour.
Yeah, I started that
So-
2 summers ago because we hadn't moved yet.
Right,
summer
but
of
like it
22.
was heavy this winter. Like
Yes,
this winter,
right.
it was like almost like clockwork. Like you had some silent alarm that went off on your watch,
No, it was just looking at the time. I
And-
just looked at the time.
and music would come on in the kitchen.
Yeah, that helped.
And there might even be like a candle lit in the kitchen, or like, and then you were making me a virgin gin and tonic, which is just tonic water.
and a slice of lime.
And a slice of lime, if anybody wants to know that mocktail recipe. And it was like, stop what we're doing. We're all done for the day, right? And that worked only like a portion of the time, because sometimes it'd be like, okay, cool. We just had mocktail hour in our kitchen, and I have office hours at 7:00, or I have a Q&A at 7:30, or, like that's the thing is sometimes.
Would I do it often when you had stuff at night? I tried to not do that because like that defeats the boundary, right? It's not like
right.
the intention is to be, this is a boundary, work has stopped, not
Well,
work has started.
It was only when there were like random event. Like
This is before we got the calendar.
you weren't going to do it on like nights that obviously I'm teaching in one of the main programs.
Right.
Like for sure. You are very aware of that schedule. But like there would be a like a workshop that I was doing once a month, or Ayurveda coaching group.
Yep.
Something like that. And then you wouldn't have that on your radar, and I'm like, okay, we can have mocktail hour for an hour, but like I then have to go back
Thanks
to work.
a lot, loser. Someone's got to go back to work.
Someone's day is not over.
Yeah.
It was a nice little break, and
Right.
so sometimes those boundaries are in very good intentions, and they don't pan out long term. Yeah. Or like this week. Okay, so like if we're looking at, if you're like, we're going to have hard work boundaries, we can't. We're leaving this afternoon to drive to the Berkshires to spend 4 days at a yoga festival, which we talked about on the last week's YFI podcast. But like people are like, ooh, you're going to go hang out at a festival. Like, is it a work perk? Sure. It's a festival. It's going to be fun.
Right.
We're going to get to hang out, and we are tabling. We are working. We have to be at the booth. Like, if you've never tabled at an event before, check it out.
I table it. Yeah.
Check it out. It's a thing.
It is. I table
working.
I table at Grassroots every year.
You do not table at Grassroots, and you have to stop saying that.
Don't push me on this. I will bring a table and be like, let's talk about whiteboard with a topic on it.
Oh my God. So then we're gonna get home.
I have not tried to establish a boundary this week.
Right.
I know darn well what this week is like. Actually, it's funny because I was thinking about this.
That we're working all weekend.
Right. The boundary is Monday is nothing.
Monday is nothing. Great.
Like you can't. Like I am messaging everyone in Slack and saying, do not contact my wife. I don't care what this is about. Please don't.
I love that. That was a really good executive assistant line for you to have. Not that that's your job. Why is your face? What the face?
WTF.
WTF.
Yeah, so I knew that
so
this week was going to be nuts.
So we're working all weekend. Then it is Reggae Fest next weekend.
Yeah.
So again, we're working on like all day.
Yeah.
I mean, Saturday for me will probably be 12 hours.
Right.
And so that's the tricky part. Like being in this field and working in this field with your partner, your spouse, like it's just never going to be a 9 to 5. You get a lunch break at the same, time generally every day. So the boundaries can be hard. But if I was to get super specific about it, the thing that I miss the most about other work setups that we have had.
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
Oh, let's play that game.
You're going to say when I would like bring you notes or chocolates or food.
How did you know?
How do I not know?
Oh my God.
How do I not know?
It was the sweetest thing. Like you would leave the building you worked in and go pick up lunch.
Gas station soup.
Man, I know everybody listening is just probably appalled at the words gas station soup, but this was the best freaking soup
It was so
you
good.
ever had in your life.
It was remarkable.
It is unreasonable how good this soup was. That corn chowder, I dream of this corn chowder.
It was banger after banger.
Every time.
That clam chowder.
Yes.
Was so
all of
good.
it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, yes. And I would be teaching when you were on a break. So,
Right.
like, we weren't eating lunch together.
And because the school had block scheduling,
Yes.
a lot of times it would be like I had an hour and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would go, you would get yourself lunch, you would get me lunch, you would come into the back door of my building and leave on my desk in my little office a love note, which I have all of them in a box.
Oh.
And
Barf.
soup.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
And soup. And I do miss that. It was very, very I've never seen soup and a love note on the desk that's right next to me right now.
No.
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 Sorry.
I mean, it's a different work vibe.
I also have never seen a Love Note or Soup, so
Well, it's true. I mean, I
this is
never.
also, since the workplace is what it is, and as far as like not like what the workplace is like, but the location and
Mm.
it's our home,
Mm.
equal opportunity soup possibilities.
No, because there's something sweet about like a soup delivery from like the very special soup gas station.
Soup cast.
Like there's just something very,
Yeah.
very sweet about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I can have that thought of like, oh, I miss that. That was so lovely. And at the same time, I'm like, that time in our lives was chaos,
Yeah,
pure chaos.
it was pretty. Yeah, but I mean, I like chaos because of like all the like of our jobs and all the stuff going on. The kids were young. You know, they were all in
The
high
kids were
school or
young.
middle school.
They
so
always
all-
needed to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Like we had to be at work so early in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone had to, kind of rally after school. It was like divide and conquer to get everyone where they needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe come together for dinner
Mm.
and cross our fingers that there wasn't going to be fighting at the dinner table, and then like back at it the next day. Oh, and then somewhere in there grade papers and
Right.
like do work
Yeah.
before we go to work again the next day. Lesson planning. It was such chaos.
Yeah,
And
it was a differently busy time. I won't say it was more or less.
right.
It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite things to hear when people reflect on the lives of teachers, like the lives
Mm.
of public teachers,
Right.
public school teachers, is when they're like, oh, teachers get all the breaks.
I was gonna say, if any jackass out there has the thought that like teachers get summers off, well,
Yeah.
they don't. No, here's the math. Here's the math that
Here's
I
the
did.
math.
Okay,
Here's the math.
chances are I would say most teachers would come in at some point on the weekend to grade, the opportunity to not have to bring their work home.
Mhm.
So it's so much easier to like leave your home, go to your workplace. It's usually quiet on the weekend. Grade papers, prep, make
Yep.
copies for the week. If
Yeah.
you did that every week of the school year,
Yep. For one of your weekend
for one of
days.
your weekend days,
Yep.
you know what the summer is? It's just all those days of your weekend back.
Yep.
Because it's July and August.
Mm-hmm.
It's not June. I mean, at least in New York State, because
Right.
like people like summer's off. No, like all the regents testing, you were in school till the end of June.
Yep.
So July and August are the Sundays you get back from going in throughout the school year.
Mm-hmm.
So, no.
Well, and we won't get into teacher salaries and
Yeah.
how most teachers also have to have a summer job, like
Oh,
summer
yeah.
school teaching
Summer school,
or
coaching.
coaching.
Which is like coaching seems great, and it is, but I mean, when you break down the hours and
Oh,
the pay,
God.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
pennies,
yeah. It's
pennies
pennies.
on the day, right?
Funnies.
Um,
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was such a chaotic time in our lives, and work was a different kind and level of intensity. So it's easy to also put extra emphasis, I think, on how those connections during the day where like,
right.
send each other emails
Yeah.
or, were so like, they were so life-giving because the time that we actually got to spend together was so minimal.
Right.
In regards to like the quality of that time
Right.
because we were so busy and 3 kids and
Yeah.
schedules and teaching schedules and
It was just
and
crazy.
it was crazy.
Did I actually say, with regard to the feminine archetypes, like what we need is a
Oh right.
full like a chart of the archetypes, and you can just like spin the wheel or spin the little
Right.
the pointer to be like, I am in this archetype today, and I would need some bullet points that would summarize give me the
Yeah,
highlights.
we need a little wooden sign with like hooks on it that it's like, oh, this is the week of the maiden. This is the week of the mother. This is the week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need that.
Yeah. We can
Any
I'm sure we can Etsy it up.
any Etsy artist. I don't know. Last time I thought about it, I looked and there wasn't one. I don't have the skills to create.
Well, you know what we have to figure out is like if you look for a sign that has to do with like the sign itself maybe says something like welcome,
Mm-hmm.
which we would change.
Uh-huh.
And then under it are replaceable seasonal things. So like here's the pumpkins that get hung up for fall. Here's the snow. That,
Okay,
like, you
I
know,
see
so you got
what
to
you're
look for one of
saying.
those signs
Yep.
and then just change the words to be appropriate around archetypes. So,
And I would have to figure out what to do. I got to revisit the book.
yeah.
I got it right here.
Yeah.
Warrior King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. We'll talk about this. We've talked about it on our podcast.
We have.
We're definitely going to talk about it for Wi-Fi.
I think that you should probably have a book club about that book for Wi-Fi.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh, good.
seems scary. Anyway,
Anyway.
but yeah, I mean, then it's me because I feel like the male archetypes aren't they don't cycle as much as the feminine archetypes do. Like I feel like the feminine archetypes cycle with like nature or
The
you know
moon.
your cycle or the moon, and they just kind of happen, and you recognize it and work with it.
Mhm.
Where a dude can be like, "Here's the archetype I need for this situation. Channel it."
Well, not just a dude. Anyone who is
Dude energy,
actively
masculine energy.
dude energy. I feel like dude is a gender fluid term.
I mean, I've used it as a gender fluid term for years.
Yeah. I don't
called
think
my
it's
students my dudes.
I don't think that dude is inherently masculine. I'm just going to say that. I could be
Okay.
wrong.
I mean, I think
Anyway.
it's one of those things that could be used both. It's like, hey, dudes,
Right. So we wouldn't call them dude archetypes. We call them masculine
duty types,
energy
Yeah.
archetypes.
masculine energy archetypes. Sure.
Yeah. So
So yes, but the point is,
the point is
I feel like masculine energy archetypes
don't
are
shift.
easier to say. Here's what I need in this situation. Here's what I can try to slide into. As long as you're aware, roughly, as opposed to like, oh, I'm in my king right now. which I
Right.
guess
It's like
can.
what archetype am I bringing to my job interview?
Mm.
What archetype am I going to choose to show up to at this yoga festival?
Oof. Lover. Is that right?
Wow.
Is that good?
I'm probably biased and not going to say no to that archetype showing up at any time. I would probably say magician, but
Ah. Yeah, that's better.
like playful, curious, magic,
Right.
teaching, because the magician is the teacher
Yeah.
also.
Okay.
Um,
Sure.
But
I'll
you want to show up with lover, babe. Giddy up.
I will reread the magician chapter and focus up.
Okay. I love
Um,
it. What is the hard part about working together?
The hard part about working together. There's no HR.
What do you mean? Jessica's HR.
Oh, yeah, I can be here like, my boss is up my butt about this. I have a legit complaint. Yeah, no. We keep those because I need to. Because, well, it's also because.
Do you feel like you need to go to HR about me frequently?
No. I was being
You're
wise.
being a smartass.
I was.
On our work/personal podcast that we're not having boundaries with right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is an intentional
Fine.
lowering of the.
It's an intentional crossover episode.
It's like lowering of the shields. It's
Love
done
it.
on purpose. It's
Love
not
it.
like one's bleeding into the other.
Okay. Intentional crossover.
Hardest part. Oof. Do you have one? Well, I think.
I just said.
Oh.
That the boundaries. That was the whole part
Okay.
about.
Add one when the employee doesn't listen.
And the not getting soup love note deliveries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like, I mean, this is more of a boundary because we work at home, not necessarily we work with each other, but it's like hard to know, like, okay, so for example, if I didn't work at home and then like came home, that would clearly be a time it's like, oh, now work is clearly, I mean, it's another boundary issue, right? It's like clear work is clearly done, not going to touch it or think about it or even look at it. It's like, oh, I can then read, or I'll play video games, or I'll do something of a hobby because this is the time to do it now. And it's like, where does that fit in? Because sometimes I'm like, I want to get up early and do this thing, and then I'll get to work. But then sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to get up. I mean, sometimes you're like, I need you to do this thing. Can you look at this thing that needs attention? And I say, oh, yeah, definitely. I'm not going to goof around for half an hour. Literally goof around, not your definition of goofing around, which is running errands for the house and family. And like, where can those fit in that I can do them and either recharge or just, do them because I enjoy doing them. And like, well, how can I fit those things in and not get kind of sucked into like work is right there. I can start it. I can also put it down. It's like how to fit it in appropriately with not blowing off work and also being able to do it enough that makes me happy.
Yeah. That is definitely a tricky part about working from home, I think, and takes a level of self-discipline that I think that people don't talk about a lot. Like, to be a good remote worker, the amount of self-discipline that is required is very high.
Yeah.
And,
oh, yeah.
Like, you have to be pretty committed to like getting the thing done and not being like, oh, I really need to fold the laundry, or, oh, I was going to go mow the lawn. You have to decide that this is what takes the priority. And I think that that's a skill. I think a skill people should talk about having or cultivating or needing improvement on.
Definitely cultivating, because I think because instead of just saying, oh man, well, it's about cultivating it with intention, which a large part is just communication, where it's like, I can say to you, like, I really want to get this thing done today, or this non-work thing. Like, I really want to do this today as part of my day, so that. So it's like, I can say, okay, I'm going to spend this time doing it, and not then be like, oh, here's another work thing I just thought of while I was doing this other thing. Here it is right now out of nowhere. Like, maybe while I was eating my lunch, I'm like, I'm trying to take a break. Here's a work thing. Like, work stuff comes up all the time.
Well, I mean, it came up last night. I don't remember what you said that that made me think, oh, right, there's this project that I was going to wait until we got back from the yoga festival to tell you about.
And then
I'm like, this doesn't need to be on his mind until Monday. But we were in a conversation last night on the porch, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to give you a really big project. Just FYI. But sometimes it's good for me to tell you things ahead of time.
Also true. Yes.
So
very much so.
Sometimes it's good for me to be like, this is coming up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, this isn't happening tomorrow. I don't need you to figure this out in the next 25 minutes. I'm just kind of like putting a little pin. So
no, I would much rather hear that, because that was Tuesday night, hearing that like, we need to start thinking about this next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have that than
we get back from Yoga Fest on Monday.
We get back from Yoga Fest
tomorrow.
It's Monday, our day off. We cannot do work stuff. It's like, oh, by the way, there's a gigantic thing that you really should start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Notoriously bad with, not bad, have trouble with transitions. So any amount of time you can give me to transition from one thing to another is greatly appreciated.
Yep.
So
well, look at me knocking out of the park.
Looking at you, listening to me. It's amazing.
Following simple requests.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a skill.
Following simple requests?
Following a simple directive and request.
And it's like, it's coming. I mean, this is the thing. It's coming from your husband, who's also your employee. So you're like, my husband said it, so I want to blow it off.
Wow. Not
but my
true.
employee said it,
Don't
so I
listen
feel
to
like I'm required by law to
He
at least...
sometimes says things just because he knows they're funny to say.
Yeah, half of what I say. You just described half of what comes out of my mouth.
People are going to be like, wow, man, Jeannie's tough. Not listening to her husband.
I don't think anyone is like, oh, man, poor Matt. Jeannie just doesn't listen. Yeah, I doubt that.
Maybe. I mean,
I doubt it.
Generally, though, I think the things about working together that I think, like, I'm going to go back to the grass is always greener type of thought process, right? I think that people perceive that working with your spouse and working from home must be like always amazing and full of so much like flexibility and freedom. And and it's not that it's not that, because it can be. It's just also it adds layers and complications to the dynamics of a relationship.
Oh yeah, like I mean, you say that, I'm just now thinking the commutes to work, while never were long, 20 minutes, but that was always like music time, books time, like listen to books or like any sort of decompression. I like driving. I never really minded. That is, I won't say hard to come by, but it needs to be an intentional part of your day where, and then it's like, I want to go walk the dogs. I hate to be like, please don't come with me.
I know. Well, and I have to like be aware of that because I'm like, I want to come with you. I want to come walk the dogs with you.
And full disclosure, when we go on walks with the dogs together, I like that too. I mean, it's not always like, oh, God, get me away. But yeah, it's like, how do you request or like express the need for that time to someone who you live and work with without it being a loaded request and say, oh, you want to do this by yourself? I'm like, well, yeah, I do. And I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but it's essential for my well-being.
I mean, and I get it. Like, as much as I want to go on walks with you with the dogs, mostly because I just like walking the dogs. But well, when it's nice out, I don't like walking the dogs when it's not nice out.
I know. I am well aware of your fascination.
My interest.
Your interest in being with the dogs outside. It is like, those signs you see about when to park on the street because of a snowplow. It's like, you can do this from May 1st through October 31st. Yeah, that's when you really like it.
Yeah. And sometimes it is hard when we are both going into the studio at the same time because, like, I will get in the car and listen to really loud music and sing, or I'm listening to chanting and I'm chanting. I'm using like my drive in or my drive out to decompress by mantra. And like, if we're in the car together, it's like, are you gonna play your music? Am I gonna play my music? Are we gonna sit here? Are we gonna we're gonna sit in silence for 25 minutes?
Pull a Woody Harrelson from True Detective. Let's make the time in the car a time for quiet reflection.
Quiet reflection in the car. Yeah. Which sometimes you need that, particularly when, you've been working together, living together, being around each other nonstop for the last 48 hours or something with no break.
4 years with no break.
I was just gone. I was literally just gone.
Feels like forever ago.
Wow. Okay.
It feels like you've been home for age. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I think another thing about working together that people don't often realize is I think that there's generally an assumption that if I know about something going on, you know about something going on. Yes. Which, even though we just had this whole conversation about we're constantly together. And in the same room, and our desks are in the same rooms. Like, when you're on your computer working and I'm on my computer working, like, hours can go by, and then, we all have Slack, we communicate in Slack, things will happen. Or like I get an email, and sometimes at the end of that, I'm like, did I tell you that we have a meeting?
Well, this is a greater issue where you will start a conversation with me in your head and then cue me in about halfway through.
To be fair, I have all conversations I'm going to have in my head prior to having them so that I don't say dumb shit.
Right. And that's fair. But like, sometimes I am present in the room with you and you start the conversation in your head because it's different. It's like you're by yourself. You would go through like the bullet points of the conversation you're going to have. Then someone walks in the door, or then you meet someone, and that's almost like a transition to start from beginning. If I've been there the whole time, you're like, oh, you're here. So what'd you think about that last part? I thought quietly to myself. Any thoughts?
Any thoughts on this dialogue that's been going on in my brain for the last 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Because here's where I am.
And I'm not going to say gaslighting, but it does make me feel a little crazy. Like, I swear to God, you didn't say this. I swear.
Right. And I believe you when you say that. It's more of just like, sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's also, just a general assumption, or like, I'll have a meeting and it will be on Zoom, or it will be, and like, you're here. So it's easy for me to make an assumption that you are listening to the meeting.
Right.
And I'm like, why would he fucking listen
to
this meeting? He's got his earbuds in. He's doing his own work. Like, he has no idea. And so, like, I have to then remember to be like, oh, so I had this meeting today, which if we didn't work in the same house, room, space together, at the end of the day, you see your partner,
right,
and you're like, oh, yeah, so I had this meeting today with blah, 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 and this is what we talked about, and this is what's going on, and so we're going to do this. And, like, I will forget to go through that recap.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is that is definitely a tricky part. Or, someone will share something with me at work, and I'm like, and I don't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And not because I'm intending to not inform you of something.
Yeah.
It either slips my mind, or I don't think it's my thing to tell, because that's a hard, like, I'm everybody's boss.
Right.
So if somebody comes to me as their supervisor with something, I'm not going to be like, hey, guess what, honey?
Right.
And so, like, it's then their responsibility to be like, to tell you that they need help with this project, or la la la, So it's those interesting dynamics that you don't know until you're in it, and then you're like, oh yeah, this wouldn't be a thing if we worked at different places.
Right.
This would, we'd have this conversation.
Right.
Or, like, sometimes we sit down at dinner and we're like, so, how was your day?
We had a moment like that yesterday.
What did you do today?
I think I even said it. I was
you did. How's your day?
So, how was your day? Knowing everything that happened
Everything
during your day.
that happened.
I was present for most of it.
You were present for 90% of it yesterday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's amazing we have shit to talk about.
I know. I do hear the reflection from a lot of people, like, oh, you guys work together? Like, how I could not do that. And I wonder what the percentage is of people who would be like, oh, I would love to work with my spouse every day and live together and work together at home and be 24/7 together. And what percentage of people would be like,
when you say it like that, it sounds oppressive, or
it doesn't feel oppressive to
No,
me.
it doesn't at all. That's why I'm shocking. When you say it, like when you say it in that sentence, it's like, oh my God, that could feel so like, ugh. But I honestly don't feel that way.
Right. And I think part of it too is we know each other very well. And we are very good at parallel anything, like parallel play, parallel work, parallel, we can both be in the same room and, you're reading and I'm working, or vice versa, or we're both reading. And we're together, but we're not like in each other's business.
Yeah.
And I think that we're really good at that. We also can be quiet with each other too.
It's true.
So there's never it's not a default thought in our relationship if one of us is like, if we're driving in the car and we're going wherever and it's like dead silent.
Yeah.
We're not ruminating about like, oh God.
No.
Is something wrong?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't he talking? Why isn't she talking? Like, we're just like, we're just going to be quiet next to each other for this entire ride.
I like quiet things.
I like quiet things. We're going to drive to Cortland in the quiet. Yeah. And I don't know if I have a skewed memory, but I feel like that was one of the things early on that I noticed in our relationship that felt very like comforting, like this comfortable silence that we can have with one another. And so that creates spaciousness.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm not coming over to your desk being like, what are you working on? What are you doing? Or did you get this done yet? Like,
thank you.
And I try really hard to only send you requests for work things in Slack.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that I try really hard
I mean,
to
that's
do.
mainly just so I don't lose track of it. Like I can go to the messages between you and I in Slack and see it
Mm-hmm.
instead of you just not shouting it, but like saying it from across the room.
Right.
Unless I write it down, it could get lost,
Mhm. I did have a funny I think I was looking at Instagram, and we have locally the Mimi's Attic and
Mhm.
found and like antique vintage stuff. And there was this little it's like just a square box with little like mail slots in it. And I really wanted
Oh, I know
to
exactly.
like get one and
Where-
hang it in like the mudroom
Mhm.
and call it the mail room
I love that.
and like put interdepartmental mail in there
Oh,
and
God.
like memos in there.
Can we somehow
This
do a
could be a whole
remodel
shtick.
where we have like a little chute that we can put an envelope in and just slides between the walls and out? I love that. I knew exactly. So when you said mail thing, I knew
Yes.
exactly where we were going.
Because I just, like sometimes I even feel like there is this, like we can be playful about the work dynamic
Right.
too, and like
Yeah.
silly.
I mean, that's in every place I've worked, there's always that levity.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
hopefully.
where you can have moments like that with your coworkers and they're
Mhm.
fun and they don't have to,
Yeah.
every conversation has to be work related.
Where I can be like, "Did you read the office memo? It's about garbage.
It's about
It's about decisions for the
It's-
new garbage can."
it's about getting fish fry tonight. No, I love it. I think if you please run with that idea.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
we had a moment before too where we thought, oh, we're going to incorporate all typical office
things.
shtick
Oh, right, like
things,
you were gonna get donuts on
like
Fridays or
donut
something.
Fridays,
Mhm.
and like if it's
And they're gonna be like, "Who ate all the fucking donuts?
or just, no, we'd leave like some jackass leave like half of
Right.
a chocolate frosting.
You
Like,
ate half the donut.
who ate half
Who
a donut?
did this?
It was Steve in accounting.
It was
God,
Freaking
the
Steve's
worst.
our printer.
Steve in printing.
Steven printing. Right. Yeah.
So I think we painted a pretty good picture.
I think
Accurate picture of what it's like to work with each other and live with each other.
so. Uh-huh.
I think it works really, really well a lot of the time.
I
Not even not even a 51%
No,
simple
I-
majority. I'm talking
would say like
95
90
plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 95, 97.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That other 5 to 7% though. Oof.
Usually it has to do with communication
Yeah, it's true.
and probably whatever archetype is going
And
on.
hopefully it's summer so we can go outside.
We could go get our energy out. We could do laps around the house a few times.
Just run around the house a couple times.
Yep. Come back with a different attitude.
Yeah. No, I still maintain I'm very lucky to be able to do it and happy that it's as successful as it is.
Yeah, me too. And I think I asked you the other day, like, what would 15-year-old Matt say about his, like, if you went back in a time machine and you were like, 15-year-old Matt,
Right.
you work at a yoga nonprofit.
Right. The action would probably be like, huh.
You're married to a hippie yoga witch.
Nice.
There's nature garbage in your house, and she's going to make you take dirt pills every day.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although you could show me a picture of this room
Mm.
and then I would have sold it.
You would be like, you'd be down.
Like, yeah.
15-year-old Matt would be down with
Would-
dark academia.
Yeah, I didn't know about it, but if you showed me this, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, this is
Mm.
this vibe would have resonated even then."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if I went back in time and told 15-year-old me about most of these things, I'd be like, that tracks.
That tracks.
I'd be like, that makes sense. That's fun and cool.
Mm.
And that I'm married to a librarian with a couple of master's degrees and some tweed. I would be like, okay. I don't know what karma I received to have these blessings, but very psyched about it.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very sweet. That is how you win a podcast.
That's how you end a podcast right there.
For Mutual Victory and the Epic Wi-Fi Mutual Victory crossover.
YFI. mutual victory.
This is Matt.
This is Jeannie.
Thanks, everyone.